Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, where I have the pleasure of simplifying marketing and social media for chiropractors. Now, before we get into this episode, I want to share a quick bit of time-sensitive news. So depending on when you're listening to this, it might be relevant for you, or it might have already passed. Hopefully it hasn't already passed for you, because this is going to be great. On Monday, the 19th of April, I'm starting my free 5-day social media made simple challenge for chiropractors. Now, this is directed towards chiropractors maybe kind of in my age group, in their 40s, that are being told that they should be doing social media. What does doing social media actually mean? But they're completely overwhelmed. They feel like they've wasted their time. They've just not got results with it. So the goal of it is really simple, and that is to decrease the overwhelm and show you how to use social media so you can actually start to fill your appointment book, okay? So as a business tool. So I'll take you step by step through all of that over these 5 days. Now, you can register for that. It's totally free. It is going to be very interactive and intensive. You're going to need to do work, okay? It's a challenge. If you don't want to be challenged, don't come along and join this. This is not going to be an experience where you just kind of watch it. You're going to need to interact. You're going to need to get stuff done. But by the time we're finished through these 5 days, like the roadmap is there for you. You will have done all the work as we move through it. So anguspyke.com/challenge. You'll be able to get the link will be in the show notes here as well, or down underneath where you're watching this video. I want to give you a brief outline of what we'll be covering inside of the 5 days, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about Mia in this interview as well. So day one, we're going to be talking about the 2 foundational pillars of social media. You need to get these right. This is often why we fail. We don't understand the guiding rules of what we need to be achieving inside of social media. Day 2, we're going to talk about platforms. What platform is right for you? Now, we shouldn't all be on the same platform. We need to work out where are your ideal patients, how do we reach them. Once we've decided what platform you need to be on, then we can work out how often we need to be posting, when are the best times to be posting. In day 3, we're going to get into some content, and I'm going to help you get a really detailed outline of your next 12 weeks of content, and then I'll give you a roadmap of how you can create content for the next 12 months and beyond. This will put an end to any of those kind of content blocks that you might have. In day 4, we're going to get into what is the best type of content for you to be able to create really quickly and effortlessly, that'll have the most engagement, that'll build relationships, that'll ultimately get your appointment book starting to fill with high quality peeps. And then on day 5, I'm going to take you again through a blueprint there. There are some things inside this marketing that you have to do, but most of it you don't. So you need to know what can you delegate and what you can't delegate as well. So we're going to go through all of those kind of things. anguspyke.com/challenge. Come and join me for the 5-day free challenge, social media made simple for chiropractors. All right, today's guest is the amazing Mia Hewett. She's the founder and CEO of a company called Aligned Intelligence. She's also the best-selling author of a book called Meant for More. Basically, she's an expert on human potential. Now, if you get the feeling inside of you that you are meant for more, that there's more out there for you, if you feel like something is holding you back, but you've just been struggling to find out what it is. Now, whether you feel like it's holding you back in practice, in life, in your income, if that sounds like you, then I want you to listen and take notes with this episode. Now, every week, Mia helps entrepreneurs, business owners just like us, who are kind of secretly struggling. They know that they can make more money, that they can have more impact, and that they can have just a bigger life. That's what she does. She's great at it. This episode is, it's fabulous. I really, really loved this episode. So if that sounds like you, then let's jump on in and let's chat with Mia. See you in there.
Welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast, where we guide natural health and wellness experts through the pitfalls of marketing. Each episode, you'll learn simple, effective, easily actionable, and heart-centered marketing strategies. And here's your host, Angus Pyke.
Mia Hewett, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. How are you?
So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Angus.
It is thrilling. We were just in the midst of what was a very exciting conversation 30 seconds ago, and I had to very rudely stop you because I wanted this to begin. I've got a question to ask you. I've been listening to a lot of your content over this last 10 days. There's something that you said that had me actually pull over in my car and write it down. You said that we need to be 100% committed to the results without being attached to how it's got to look. And I've been thinking about that constantly for the last 48 hours. What does that mean?
I love that. Right? So here's how it really works. And I'm going to give you I'm going to answer your question, but I want to give you something to preface it. Okay. So there's this incredible universal law called the universal law of cause and effect. Right? And inside of the law of cause and effect is that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? So that we are the cause that then goes out as an effect and ripples back. The reason why that's important to preface this is everything in what's happening in this world, even though we're not aware of it, is actually made up of energy, right? Thoughts, like, so if everybody looks around, no matter where you're listening to this and you're in your car, you're in a house somewhere, if you look around, everything you see with your physical eyes was once held to in somebody's imagination, formed into a thought forms, into actual, then the actual blueprint, put it into a piece of paper, break down onto paper, like either a blueprint of the house or a car or so forth, then taken action upon until that was materialized into reality. Now, why is that important? Because when you can understand that everything is happening inside out, not outside in, right? But there's these universal laws at play. You have to understand that everything is energy. So for every cause, for every person listening, there is that they want another client. There is a client that actually is looking for you, right? Where the key is inside of your question, which is a great question, how do you really go all in? Like, how do you get all in and be committed to the end result, but yet detached or flexible inside of how it's going to look? As an exact example of this is, I just came off of, we do live launches. We fill people up 6 times a year. We've onboard a bunch of people all at one time, which is how we make our millions. And how we do that is inside of this space, we know exactly the number that we're going to hit, right? To make that happen, it's not like, it's not like, oh, I don't know how that's going to happen. No, we know the exact numbers that is going to hit. And so what we do is we play into that as it's done. So here's the all in, like, I'm all in. There's 20 people in the seats. And that's all we're looking for, because we believe in quality over quantity. So we give incredible results and keep our quantity low so that we can get that quality. So 20 people in the seats, right? So now here we go, 20 people in the seats. Now we're all in on it. We are 100% in on giving all of the people that show up inside of that challenge, which, by the way, was only 73 people or 72. We went all in on those people, gave them incredible, extraordinary experience with us, gave them things that they could literally learn and take away with and really get results right away. And at the end of that, like, we don't get attached to which one of those 72 people are going to say yes. So we have no attachment, right? So meaning what that looks like in practical is we'll be on a call with someone who says, I really want to sign up. Great. Let's jump on a quick call. Let's like really see what's coming up for you. Like they're like, something's like a concern. But we hold no attachment to them being one of those 20. So we just stay completely committed at the 20, let go of any attachment whatsoever. And so inside of that, being fully committed while being completely detached, we achieve our result every single time.
Yeah.
Like every single time it will come through. It just doesn't sometimes come through. Like as an example, we completed 20 people got into those seats. So then what happened was, just to kind of show you, so 20 people came into those seats, and then one of the 20, there was an issue inside. She was like, oh, I think I need to move that to the next one. Awesome. Right behind that, though, came another person who filled the seat within a matter of a few minutes. Because when you hold the 20, Angus, like inside of being the cause and effect, right? Here's why I'm going back to that law.
Yes.
It's just that I trust the laws so much because I understand them now, like the back of my hand. When I say I'm all in, let me give you a really good way to feel this.
Mm.
I remember, and this is where this was life-changing for me. So I remember I had the fortune, I grew up poor, but I had the fortune of working with a few billionaires in my time. And this one billionaire, his name was Martin Franklin, and he sold his company. He used to own like a conglomerate of companies like Yankee Candle and Coleman's Grill, like all these little companies. He owned all of them, and he sold it to Rubbermaid years back, for $14.3 billion.
Mm.
And I remember at the time, Martin had 36,000 employees. And I had like at the time, I think, I don't know, maybe between 6 and 15, and I was a millionaire, he's a billionaire. And I remember having this conversation with him going, Martin, how the hell do you do that? Like, I know you're not managing 36 people and you've got the people and the leaders in place. And I already understand all of that scalability, but how are you doing that? Like, how are you maintaining this and not in being in fear? What do you do for fear? And this was, my first company when I was doing it through burnout. And he said, Mia, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have fear. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Listen, I've been studying personal development since I was 13 years old because I've been working since I was 13.
Mm.
I said, what are you talking about? There's an amygdala in the back of your brain, fight, flight, or freeze. And he said, Mia, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have fear. The way I see it is most people can't make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I remember starting to think to myself, what do you mean? I make decisions all the time. And so I started thinking, like, where do I not make decisions? And I said, tell me more about that. He said, the way I see it, Mia, is I will take the critique. He takes the feedback of what it is. Once he's decided, once he does that, he trusts his gut. He makes a decision and then he never looks back. Like, this is what it really looks like to really go all in, where you never, ever second guess that 20 people in the seats. Like, when I mean all in, it's like all in. It's like as if I know that I'm going to pick up this pen and if I drop it, it's going to fall. That's with the same feeling that it's like a done deal. It's not even like I don't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out on the 20, thinking that I'm trying for 20 and I hope I get 20, but I'm not really sure I'm going to get 20. That energy of going in and out, what happens as a cause creates an effect of you get in and out people. Some people come in, some people don't come in. Like, there's this in out. It's the exact mirror. Mm. Is that making sense, Angus?
In the early 100%. In the early days, and if we stick with that concept, in fact, let's say there's some practitioners out there that decided that there's a revenue goal that they have for 2021, that maybe they want to get to, $500,000 in revenue, and they're going to hold that space and they're all in. And let's just assume, because they're new at this, that they're not going to have the same skill set that they're going to waver from time to time. When that's happening with your clients, how do you coach them back in and remind them, no, it's all in. Remember the pen. I love that metaphor. I know that I dropped the pen. It's always going to happen.
Yeah.
So how do we, and that makes sense because I've seen the pen drop, but if I haven't seen $500,000 in revenue in my practice, how do I remind myself to get back? What are some of the cues that mean I can stay on track?
No, that's such a great question. So the first thing that I would do is the way the mind works, when we use the mind as a tool, instead of it mastering us, we are mastering it. So it becomes a servant, right? So the way I'm using my mind as a tool, and I really do mean that literally, like, the first thing I want you guys to feel is you have a mind and you're not your mind. You have a mind, you're not your mind. You're actually not your thoughts. You are the thinker behind your thoughts. And the reason this is really important, because everything is energy and everything is responding to energy. So to answer your question inside of that is, what you need to do is, the way the mind works best is you have to drop it down to the very simplest common denominator, like the very simplest form. So meaning, you have to take that number and chunk it all the way, reverse engineer it and chunk it all the way down to just know, what does that equal in the smallest number per month, right? Because the mind can't get around $500,000, because that's not a tangible. It's like, well, like you said, I've never seen $500,000. So like, that's like an intangible. Well, that's why it stays in concept. So the reason why this is really important that we have to get it into the practical is in order to make it into the practical, we have to break that down into how many people is that per month, so that we know the exact numbers, because we know what it takes to actually get a client into our practice. If you've been in business for any period of time, you know what it actually looks like to do that. So the question is now you've got to play the gap, right? You're playing the alignment gap of, okay, you're going to hold that vision of whatever the amount of number is. So it's very small. And now your work is to only focus on the number one profit generating activity that you're going to do consistently, or have your team do with you consistently. So it's it can be a team effort, right? There's a team effort that's into it, but everybody understands the number. Everybody's all in on that number, and there's nobody holding out not to be on that number. And now we're going into action, holding that it's a done deal, just doing the nitty gritty, so to speak, to make that a reality. But we've already known it's a reality. So consider this, that in truth, success actually happens twice. It happens first in the mind and into the emotions and in the body. So you have to actually feel what it would feel like to have that be done before you then, and then secondly, now you're going to take action upon it, and then it'll get materialized in reality. So it's actually created twice. Most people think it's only created once it's out there. The reason why which is what society teaches, it's like, that's why people teach goals. I don't teach goals. I teach vivid visions. How do you live in the vision of it's done? Because a vivid vision is a living, breathing experience of, I have those 20 people. It's not like, well, I have this goal out there that is not here, that I want out there. I want these 20 people over there. Well, then I can never get there, because over there is not here. And it must be that literal. Does that make sense?
Totally. Mia, when I'm talking with my coaching clients, and this concept in around trying to set a vision, people are often incredibly skilled at articulating what they don't want. But they have such a tough time at throwing that flag out and pinning it in the ground and saying, I want 20 new clients this month. I want $500,000 in revenue. I want, $1 million in revenue. How do you get people to find that vision? And then what are the practices that help them kind of live into it each and every day, so it stays there as a literally a magnetic pull?
Yeah. That's such a great question. So a couple things. The first thing is, like, you're exactly right. The reason why they have the results they have is literally because of what they're focusing on. So what they don't want, which is why they have those results, is because they're focusing on that. So the first thing I need to preface before I explain that is, the truth is, you are always creating. In fact, you can never stop creating. What do I mean by that? The person sitting on his couch right now, or her couch right now, binge watching Netflix, is creating. Like, that is creation, right? So you cannot stop creating. The law of cause and effect does not sleep. So it's available 24/7. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're focusing on, you are getting more of it. The problem that comes up is people aren't realizing that they've never been consciously aware they're creating it all. Right? They're creating all of it. So whether you're binge watching Netflix or whether you're on social media being seen, either one is creating. Not right, wrong. I'm not talking morality. I don't coach morality. So it's not right, wrong. It's just one's going to lead you to more of the results you want, and the other will not, right? So then the next question is, if everything is creation and we're creating all of it by what we hold as an emotional set point, very important. It's not the mind, it's in the emotional set point. If everything is creation and what we're feeling is what's giving us our results. Let me say that again. What you're feeling is giving us your results. It's not what you think. You always get how you feel. That's why I say to people, you can't think greater than how you feel.
Yep.
Right? The reason is because because our emotions are actually taking us out of what is causing. That's why we don't even see the way to get to that opportunity, because our emotions take us out. So now we have to go to, well, what's taking us out in the emotions? Okay, well, here's the big news that I wish somebody would have told me freaking years ago, because I'm 53, and when I uncovered this, it was like life altering, and I'm not an overnight success. It took me 6 years to uncover this, but I'm going to show you in a real short, like very simple, what really is happening to every single human being and why they're stuck sabotaging. Yes. So here's how it really works. So the truth is, right? So if this is a lifeline, everybody is born, Angus, whole, perfect, and complete. Not one baby is born with a self-esteem issue. Not one.
Yeah, I love it.
And then, so everybody felt when they were born that there was a harmony to them. They totally trusted themselves. They trusted others, and they trusted life. Like, we woke up in the morning when we were really little and we're like, the whole world was for us, right?
Yes.
Everything was for us. So, right, there's a connection to everything. Everything is for us. And then something happens. Something happens that shocks you, confuses you, causes you to doubt yourself, begins to question like everything about yourself. It blindsides you, because as a child grows, they grow by an emotional, not a thinking thought, by an emotional bond of trust. And when that bond gets broken, they experience an emotional trauma. Okay? That day of that emotional trauma that happened to you very young, most often I see between 2 and 4 years old.
Yes.
Yes, it can be 5. Yes, it can be 6. Not more than 7. Not at all more than 7. Definitely no more than 6. But very young. 2 to 3, 4 is most common. So when that happens, that day that got broken, that emotional trust got broken, it blindsided you so much, and it caused you to, and you have to feel this because it's not logical. It caused you to pull back inside of yourself. And you said some version of, I'm all alone, or I've got to figure this all out, or like some version of separation happened in that pullback emotional. That's the day that you created, or we all created, our ego. Okay. This is the false self that we then thought, wow, who I really am must be something really wrong, because for this to happen to me, that's not safe to be me. So then we all unconsciously took on a survival pattern as a new way of being to survive our life. So for me, it was like, I had to be the good girl. I had to be the girl, like I had to get it right. I couldn't get it wrong. I didn't want to be wrong again, right? Because before this experience happened, every single one of my clients, and every single one in the whole world will have this experience. Everything was perfect. Like everything was happy. And then something happened and it took that away. So there's this emotional trauma of fear that if I am successful, it'll be taken away. Or if I am successful, people are going to control me, or they're going to make fun. Whatever the decisions you made during your original trauma, it is going to start playing out.
Yep.
Because from that day, every negative experience after that, Angus, was just more of the same damn pattern. It'll be a different place, different face, different situation, but the same thing that keeps happening in this pattern is coming from the original root cause. And so we actually have to heal this such that the person then goes back to feeling whole like they did before the trauma. And now they're creating from wholeness. So their emotions are no longer taking them out. So here's where the self-sabotage comes in. And so the reason why people can't find this is therapists, I went to years and years of therapy, is that they keep looking for it in the mind. It's not in the mind. The mind is just a symptom of the underlying root cause, which is coming from the emotions, which are stuck in the body, which I know your practitioners know, because that's what they specialize in. But here's where the sabotage happens. And so this is what I wish somebody would have told me. Oh my gosh, it would have saved me so much money, years, time, frustration, stress, going in the wrong direction. Here's what's happening. So prior to the age of 7, we don't have a conscious mind. We only have a subconscious mind, a feeling mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all of this went in from the feeling mind, okay? Yet after 7 years old, we develop the conscious mind, right? The logical mind, like I agree with that, I disagree with that, right? That's why as teenagers we rebel.
Yes. Yes.
So what happens to us all is we get stuck between emotionally feeling how we feel from this trauma and then knowing what we should do. Like, I know what to do, but I just can't seem to feel like I can do it. We get stuck looping between these two parts of ourselves, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind.
Mm.
This is where the self-sabotage happens. And this is why people struggle. So to answer your original question is like, what, but Mia, like they get their number and then they just don't do it. It's because the emotions are taking them out. Because here's the biggest thing, what this pattern creates inside of this struggle, the sabotage, is there'll be a part of you that will feel like, see me, like I want to play big, I want to do more, I know I'm meant for more, but don't really see me. See me, don't see me. See me, don't see me. And because if you see me, we're afraid that you're going to see what's really wrong with me the day that I made all those decisions about my core trauma, right?
Yes.
So it's like, see me, don't see me. And here's the thing, all marketing is the willingness to be seen.
Yeah. Yep. When I was listening to you talk through this, I know for some of our listeners, there are really obvious traumas that we can go back to in that age and it will pop up. And for some of us, they're not so obvious. And I was spending some time trying to find out what it was for me. And you gave an example also of how possibly insignificant, other than the person, you talked about one of your clients who was an entrepreneur who was always making money, losing money, making money. And can you tell the story about his coloring when he showed it to his dad?
Yeah.
And how something so as a insignificant, possibly looking from outside, impacted that man's life?
Oh, I love this so much because I was like, I don't like, we think we don't have trauma. Who has a trauma? Like,
Mm,
that's just the way life was.
mm,
What do you mean there's a trauma, right? But you're exactly right. What happens is that for this man, as an entrepreneur, he came to me and he would make money and lose money and make money and lose money, and he could never build wealth. And so he didn't think he had a trauma. He's like, but Mia, I have a really great childhood. Like I had good parents. Like I don't have a trauma. And
mm.
so much so that when he came to my call, he actually had gone to a hypnotist to see
Yes.
if she could help him. And I said, oh, that's so funny because I could have done that in my sleep. I can find people's traumas so easy. So I said, you didn't need to do that. I'm going to show it to you. And it wasn't the one the hypnotist found. So they don't normally go back far enough. So
Uh-huh.
as an example for him, what I helped him find is when he was 4 years old, he had come home from preschool and he came running in and he said, Daddy, Daddy, look, I colored inside the lines. And his dad took the piece of paper and he just looked at it and he said, well, I guess that means you don't have much of an imagination. That's all he said. He
Mm,
didn't beat him. He didn't ground him. He didn't take away his favorite toy. Like there was nothing else that happened. But to that little boy, that's why trauma is in the eye of the beholder,
mm.
not in the situation,
Very much so.
right? So that little boy interpreted, first of all, from little kids, like 4 years old, he thought a body part was missing, right? Like, what do you mean I don't have an imagination? Like a leg is missing? Like some part of me is missing. So he made it mean I'm a disappointment. And so his whole life, everything he did was to try to not be a disappointment. But guess, Angus, how he always was afraid of feeling. What was the feeling he always cared through everything he did was the fear of being a disappointment.
Totally.
So,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
every time he would make money and then he would lose it because he'd have to become a disappointment again.
Yes.
You see this?
Are there some ways that our listeners who might not have the ability to be working with you in this moment here too,
Yeah.
can kind of mine through their past? Where might they
Yeah.
look to identify these kind of traumas?
Yeah, absolutely. I just did a woman just recently and she did the same thing. So she, this entrepreneur, this woman, she just went through a really bad, with COVID, everything came up to it, because what it'll do is the trauma stays in the background of your mind running 24/7. So it's the biggest blind spot. That's why the world has missed this. Like, the reason why nobody knows about this, and I'm like the one screaming at the rooftops, like, let me tell you where this is all coming from, is because everybody's looking for it through the mind, right? But the truth is, this is happening, and it's the biggest blind spot because it's unconscious. So what happened to this particular in COVID, everything that's there got heightened, right? Because when the environment shifts, what is normally where you can manage it, where you're keeping it kind of contained, it like can become unbelievably loud, right? It's screaming at you. And so for her, she ended up literally going through a horrible time, like where it just took over her, but she didn't think she had a trauma. So here's how I helped her find it. And I'm going to show you exactly how, and for all of your listeners, you can feel this. So what you have to do is, there's a couple things. The first thing is, you have to understand that it's not in the mind. So where most people are looking is in the mind. It's not going to be in the mind. It's a blind spot. And it was done when you were under, when you only had a feeling mind. So what you have to do is actually have you close your eyes and really feel for the earliest memory. It's in a feeling. It's going to be in the body. And you're going to feel it first. And then once you feel it, it will literally throw an image to your mind to show you. Now, I don't, with all of the people that I've done this with, I always say to them, I don't need a whole scenario. Like one guy, all he could give me was that his original trauma was somebody, he didn't even know who it was. When he was about 18 months old, somebody grabbed him really hard by his arm like this. And it shocked him, confused him, caused him to doubt himself. I said, that's it. I just need that. Go there. And then from that experience, I was able to pull his entire pattern of what he runs his entire life. Because this pattern, this one fundamental shift in subconscious, in that unconscious, will literally change the trajectory of the person's life. So with his, this was a really cool story. Well, let me just tell you hers. So hers was, I was able to help her find, she didn't even remember it, but when she was 6 years old, her mom had thought that there was something wrong with her growing. So she took her to the doctor, and this was all like, she was being examined, and hers was all about that trauma of feeling like people are going to judge you. There's something wrong with her. There's something wrong with her body. And it was a very painful and traumatic experience for her. So that, of course, played out in the exact thing, like the bank. She felt the banks were controlling, people are going to judge her. All this was going to play. It all played out perfectly from that original trauma where she actually had to go bankrupt. Now, here's another gentleman. His was really cool. This one, he had gone and he went to someone else who does trauma. And they said, oh, well, your trauma is because when he was 3 years old, he died of an asthma attack, but then he was brought back. And so when I asked him about when I took him back and guided him, I said, I want you to let go of thinking it would happen at 3. Because most often the one that everybody thinks it is really the secondary. Because once it happens, it'll happen again bigger, right? So anyway, on his was what his original trauma was, which is really fascinating, was when he was about 18 months old, he used to come out of his crib at night and he would go and explore the house. And his parents didn't know what to do with him. So one night they put him in the crib and they locked the door.
Right.
And that was so traumatic for this little boy, he cried and screamed and everything. It was so traumatizing that he made it mean that other people have control over him and he can't really do anything. And it's all up to them, this control, that when he would even go in a car ride, he remembered then after when I showed him this, when he would be taken in a car ride at that young, he would get so traumatized. He would ask them, do you know where we are? Are you sure you know where we are? Are you sure? Because he didn't feel he had any control of any of his surroundings anymore. And so where it shows up in his entrepreneur life is he's never been able to scale his business because he's so afraid of rejection because of the fear of going into the bank and them controlling him, because he believes other people control him, that he's never scaled his business. So that's where we're helping him like heal that right now and free them, which is always so fascinating. But isn't it amazing? Like in the mind, everybody kept thinking it was the 3-year-old experience.
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not the trauma.
Mia, once you
Yeah.
identify what the trauma is, what are some of the steps that you take people through to help them bring them back to that? It really, when I first heard you talk about how
Yeah.
perfect we are when we're born,
Yes.
it really struck a chord with me, because you know, any parent out there knows that, you know, wherever this baby is born, whichever country in the world, there's that moment of perfection there, and then often
Yes.
the world starts to challenge them. How do we start to coach ourselves, and how do you coach your clients back to that kind of original perfect self?
Yes. Have you ever seen the movie Inception?
Yes, love it.
Okay. Okay. This is why I wrote about that and used that as an illustration in my book.
Hmm.
Because in that movie, I love the way they say that brilliantly. Like he asked some question like, what do you think is the most deadliest thing to man? Do you think it's like, this virus, or do you think it's this, or you think, no, it's an idea that
Mm,
once gets implanted into the mind,
mm,
right, then takes form into it. And like, this is exactly what has happened to every single human being. So
yes.
how we have to, now when we can see that, so that idea that got planted becomes, if you will, a perception of reality, right? So feel it like this, like a perception, meaning this is why I have 3 other sisters, and this is why we have the same parents. And if you were to ask us what our childhood is like, we're going to
Mm,
give you 4 different stories,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because that perception that we're talking about, when the trauma happens, everything gets filtered from that perception. And so I want you to consider that everybody's living in a perception. So they're not really in reality. Does that make sense at whole?
Totally. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Because I'm going to answer your question, but I have to give you that before I can show you how I'm going to do this.
Mm,
So that's what I found.
mm,
I found that when I would heal people's trauma and then help them, because it's not just one thing that I do, it is like a recipe, kind of like this. So, and now this is coming to a great way for people to feel this. So here's the difference between, why do people struggle with, they know what to do, but they just don't live what they know?
mm,
How do we really go from like a concept of understanding, like, well, now I know my trauma, but how do I really live what I know now and not stay in that trauma? So it is answering your question. I'm just going to show it to you because it's a recipe. It's not
mm.
one thing that I do that is going to make the difference, but it's each one of these ingredients that I put in. So it's like an example, as if you had never baked an apple pie before
Yes.
and you wanted to bake an apple pie, it's not enough to know that you need apples, right? Knowing you need apples is not going to get you an apple pie. So awareness of the trauma will not get you the result. Okay. Awareness is not enough to get to the result. It just means you have awareness. So that's a piece of the ingredient, but
Mm,
it's not all the ingredient. So we have to take that. Here's how we do it.
mm,
And this is why it takes me a minimum of 8 weeks. If I
mm,
can do it faster, I'm always looking, can I do this faster, simpler, easier? Because I really simplified this down to the
mm,
like the easiest way to have everybody break free. And everybody in my thing, every 20 people break free. There's
mm,
not one person that doesn't break free. So it's down to a science. So what we have to do is, from that awareness, now we have to take that awareness, be able to help the person with that awareness, be able to sort inside of themselves, clear the misunderstanding and the misconceptions, meaning they have to separate the truths from the lies that they've been carrying, that they don't even know they're
mm,
carrying. They have to
mm.
sort that out, be able to then, once they have the truth, be able to apply the truth on purpose,
Yep.
such that they're going to have new experiences, right? The truth will give them new experiences. And
Yep.
then when they apply that consistently, taking action, having new experiences, well, then that new experiences are going to give them the new results. Like, results are a
Yeah.
given. Like, I don't even worry about the results. Our results are astounding. Like, in our last one that we just finished, we had 20 people in it. Like out of all of those, we had like 7, 8 people who had the largest amount of money that they've made in their company from the inception. This is all from letting go.
Yes.
Which isn't that wild? Because can you feel that? Like where it's the opposite of what people think, right? Like we're taught to like hustle and actually like do more and work harder and be more and, like be more, hustle hard. But here's the fascinating thing. The letting go of like all the misunderstandings, there is an allowance that happens. An allowance is not passive acceptance. So let me say that more. Allowance, when you let go and you really feel for what the truth is and you live inside these universal laws, which is really the true things of how it works, not what we were told how it works. Allowance is more about recognizing that higher source, that higher power, right? That knows you, even that part of yourself that knows yourself even better than yourself, like that bigger part of yourself. So nothing is, there's a bigger at play here and nothing is by accident. So allowance doesn't mean tolerate. People misunderstand allowance, but it's not tolerate. Allowance is not passive or inactive, but it's rather an actively choosing to flow with life by looking at the events of life as neutral, as with innocence and curiosity, rather than obstacles or stepping points. Instead, they become stepping stones.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I can, when you think about, or the way I often kind of think about where results come from in our life, and results will come from the actions that we take.
Yes.
The actions invariably that we take really come from the feelings that we have beforehand.
Totally.
And yeah. And again, if I bring this back to this, you talked about that, how we've looked at the world is basically going to be creating the feelings that we have. And it kind of brings me back to this, concept that I've heard you talk about, that the problem that you think you have is not the real problem.
Never.
And so maybe we're over here trying to solve a problem, whether it might be, more lead generation, better conversion, increasing income. This is where we're working on the results.
That's
instead
correct.
of saying, why are these results kind of happening from there too? I'm interested in your take on confidence. And I've heard you say that everywhere that you're struggling or the areas that you're struggling is basically where you're lacking confidence. What do you mean by that?
Oh yeah, that's so good. Because where does confidence come from? So confidence comes from when you know how I'm so confident now, and I never used to be. So I just want to say that because I know I sound like this person, because people say this to me all the time. You sound so confident. How did you get to be so confident? And it's like, because I healed my trauma. Because what used to happen to me is so a quick story, just so that I answer this so that you can see how confident in where confidence comes from. So before understanding all of this, what I'm telling you, I didn't understand any of it. So when I was a child, when I was between 4 and 5, my dad called me. I remember being in my room and I heard a voice call me, and my father's, and of all the people in my household that I feared the most, my dad was the one that really scared me, because I could never tell what was going to set him off. Like one moment he could be this real gregarious, the life of the party, really funny, making everyone laugh. And the next minute, in a split second, he could go completely postal. Like literally lose his shit. And then somebody got hurt. Like somebody got injured because he would hurt somebody, spank somebody, whip somebody, wash your mouth out with soap, somebody's going to get hurt.
Yes.
So I was always worried about him. And so I remember him calling me, to come down. I was playing with my doll and he's like, I want to go outside. And I was like, why are you calling, why me? And he's like, I want to go outside. We want to spend some time together. And I was like, okay. And I remember going outside, and I remember for a moment feeling like, wow, I'm really special. He didn't call my other sisters. Like, I'm the one he's calling. Like, there's something special about me. And then I remember him saying like, which one is your favorite chicken? And I was like, oh, that one, because there was this one that I always played with and always found her worms and everything. And he was like, good. And he said, plain as day, that's the one we're going to kill today. And I remember like I got frozen, my mind shut down. I became complete, like I couldn't make out my thoughts. Like, I didn't know, I know that I heard some screaming and I realized it was me, but I didn't remember like even knowing the screaming. Like I almost became like I don't know, I became like the mutest person in the world. I didn't say anything. I just froze. But internally, I made that mean it's all my fault. People are going to betray you. You can't trust anyone, not even your own father, and the
Yes.
world, the
Yeah.
really scary place. So now here I am. Now I go build my first company from burnout, right? Like I did it. Like I did all the actions, but I'm doing it in fear, right? So I'm doing it in fear going, oh God, like, I hope I don't get this wrong. I don't get this wrong. I hope I do that right. Did I do that right? Did I do that wrong? I'm constantly doubting myself, constantly questioning everything I say, constantly. And then pretty soon, like if somebody came in my office and I remember this one particular guy, and he was really domineering, like my father, like had the same energy. And every time he came, all my staff would scurry. They would like, everybody avoid, like nobody wanted to deal with him. And he'd always come see me. And every single time he'd come in, I would become frozen. I would become like, I couldn't make out my thoughts. I could not make it, like literally paralyzed again.
Yeah.
The same freaking damn trauma. I just never associated that was from that. Like I never put the two and two together. So now I'm going to say to you now, how did I become so confident? What is confidence? Well, what happens is when you understand the truth about how life really works, not how we were told it was working, but how law of cause and effect really work. Right? So the more in the law of cause and effect, the more in fear I was, the more I would get fearful things happening to me, the more, right? So I just kept creating these patterns over and over again. Now, when you understand how life works, now when you understand how you really work, oh, you mean I can actually heal that and process emotions? You mean there's a way to process emotions such that that I can clear anything out of my way and I don't have to get taken out by emotions? Who knew? My parents never had, they had all their own issues with emotions. My mother, when she would get mad at you, she would just stop talking to you for days. So you would either have the cold shoulder of somebody not even pretending you exist, or you would have somebody who would be really gregarious or fly off the handle. That was my childhood. So I didn't know that you could process emotions. I've never seen emotions processed. So like the fact that we can sort our emotions, clear the misunderstandings, come back into alignment and into our homeostasis inside of our own being, and then take action from alignment. The reason I'm so confident is when you understand how the world works, when you understand how you work, and then you have it working for you instead of feeling like it's against you. There isn't anything, my friends, and I mean anything, there isn't anything that you cannot have. When you understand how everything is really being created and that you are both the creator and the allower of all that you have, you will free yourself. You start to free yourself and let go of the chokehold of the things you think are stopping you, which are the wrong problem, right? Which is going back to your original thing, because not one person ever comes with the right problem. And they know this from their own practices, because you know that if they had the right problem, they would have already solved it by now. Right? The reason that they don't have the right problem is because why they still have the problem is because they have the wrong problem. And so therefore, here's the dichotomy, and everything is very paradoxical when it comes to like understanding how things really work. But here's the paradoxical thing about life and understanding cause and effect and the mind and our own mind. Once the mind decides it has a problem, it will go to work to protect the problem.
Yeah.
That's why this is the biggest blind spot in the entire world. Because once our minds decides it has a problem, then we literally protect it because we believe it to be true, even when it's not true. And so we can rationalize and justify, and because of law and cause and effect shows us more evidence, and because the RAS, the reticular activating system in the back of our brain, that literally is filtering everything else out but what we believe because we're feeling, and it only shows us more evidence of it. We have all the evidence of the world that we're right.
Yeah.
Even when we're wrong.
Mia, you've written a book that goes into a lot of this stuff. Where can our listeners, our watchers, our audience, where can they get a hold of the book? What will they learn in the book?
Sure. Oh my gosh. They will learn how to find their original trauma, how to like heal the original, like literally go back and take it through the process of how to like really get it all down. It's really great. It's the book that I wish that somebody had given me as a kid. Would have been the life manual for life. You can get it at it's Mia, M-I-A, Mia Meant for More book.com is the link. I'll give it to you for your
We'll
show.
make sure it's in the show notes too.
Yeah. Mia Meant for More book.com. And there's a password because it's free. Okay. You just have to punch in free book, all one word, capital F.
Yep.
So capital F, all one word, free book, Mia Meant for More book.com. And they can just download it for free.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mia, I can't thank you enough for the conversation that we've had today. My brain has been racing in anticipation, and it's so lovely because I feel like I get a level of self-counseling on these sessions here as well. Yeah. There's so much of what I have realized that when I thought I was going to be just teaching people marketing and business development, I went, there's a person that comes along with this as well. And there is, this concept of inside out, and often in chiropractic, we talk about that's where health comes from, inside out. And so the alignment is just so perfect. If people, along with your book, where else should they reach out to find more about you, to learn more, to hang out?
They can come into, like, they can always email me. I'm the one who responds to all the emails, not my team. It's Mia at MiaHewett.com, and Hewett is Hewett. So Mia Hewett, Mia at MiaHewett.com. I also do like a really awesome 5-day stop self-sabotage, know your worth and charge for it challenge. I really recommend that, even when to really experience like what it is, because it is life transforming. It's an incredible one. Our next one isn't till April 26th, but they sell out. So I definitely would recommend that for them to have an experience, because it really will give them so much. That either way, they can email me, like sign, you'll get the information. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you'll see, we'll announce that next challenge coming up in April. And so it'll be great. But yeah, that's the best way they could do that.
Yeah. Well, Mia, such beautiful and incredibly important work that you have been doing, and you continue to do too. Thank you so much for spending all the time that you have and going through $500,000 of investment in coaches and therapists and all that stuff, learning this.
Just figure this out. Thank you so much, Angus. Like, I want to thank you. Thank you really for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing in the world, because it really, you have such an incredible heart. So really thank you for being who you are, to really want to bring this so that more of your people can even like thrive inside of it, because it's incredible what this will do. So thank you for being like you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's the mission behind the work that I do in this podcast as well.
Exactly.
Mia, I really hope some stage we get together and have a round 2 to this. I'm going to continue to dive in and learn from you as well. And you'll see me in your April challenge there. I look forward to being a part
I would
of that.
love to see you.
Yeah, have a beautiful afternoon. Thanks for being a part of the podcast.
You too. Bye.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out the Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work one-on-one with you to apply, implement, systematize, and help guide you and your practice to the next level. Now you can join me over at adiomedia.com/join. That's adiomedia.com/join. I'd love to see you in there.